All right, guys, variation number 2 is the box squat. This is one that I've written about extensively. I think it's a great variation for a lot of people, but it's never perfect for everyone. There is no exercise that I'm ever going to talk about that's going to be perfect and span everyone. I would be lying if I said that was the case. It is not the case with all movements, but this is a great variation for a number of things. Number 1, we can use it with heavier loads. Number 2, we can use it to repattern the squat and teach someone how to get their hips back. A lot of times working with new clients over the years, I've seen them, really work on more knees and less of hips and not having good lumbo-pelvic rhythm where they can get into good position. This is one where you have something like a box. We are forced to get our hips back to the box, okay? There's a few key components to this. One, we want to make sure that we sit back on the box. When we do that, we are effectively breaking up the lowering and raising phase of the lift. Now, when we sit back on the box, that doesn't mean we're going to relax and lose our positioning. We're going to stay in a top position and maintain good lumbar extension and then come through the raising phase. So again, we sit back, explode up. Sit back, explode up. It's really that simple. You don't necessarily need to use a safety squat bar, but I love the safety squat bar for box squatting. You can do front box squat. You can use a regular barbell. You can certainly do other variations too, like Zercher squats, but again, has a ton of application. So let's talk about where you could potentially use this in your programming. You could do it for heavier efforts, 1 to 5 repetition max. You could do something like cluster sets. You could use wave loading. You could do it for dynamic effort where we're doing speed work, doing 5 sets of 5 with something like 40% of your max, and maybe you've got some additional chain weight on the bar. So it has a number of great benefits. Let's say you are getting back into training and your squat isn't feeling great. Maybe you've already used the hamburger squat and you want to progress to a barbell movement. Box squat, a great place to go. You don't need to load it particularly heavy to get a lot from it and to teach you how to, again, get into good position with your squat, but also teach you how to explode out of the hole. Now, caveat to this. If you have lower back issues and going in to position on the box where you essentially go into more lumbar flexion, that can be problematic. So remember that when you do sit back on this box, we're not getting into a position where we could potentially have the spinal, lumbar spine being in a disadvantageous position. So that's something you want to be mindful of. The other thing is that having a coach certainly helps. Someone to watch you, or maybe you video it from the side with just an empty bar and get some technique going first, because there is certainly some coaching that needs to take place with this. Another thing to consider with this squat variation is that you can modify the stance. So if you wanted to bias more adductors and glutes, you could go with a wider stance. If you wanted to bias more quadriceps, you could certainly go with a closer stance. I love the wide stance variation, but as I said, it's not the end all. It's not a one size fits. So make sure that you're mindful of all those things before potentially attempting this movement.